Was The Firm failure? Let's talk about it. So the band The Firm with Paul Rodgers and Jimmy Page was very eagerly anticipated when they formed in 1984-85 time period, and they put out 2 albums and disbanded in 1986 after doing a couple of tours. The question is, were they a good band? At the time, many people were underwhelmed given the legendary status of Jimmy Page and Paul Rodgers. And looking back, is it possible that we missed a great band and just don't know it? I'm going to tell you what I think. But before I do that, I want to remind you to like and subscribe to the channel. I upload new content basically every day. We have a lot of polls and discussions going on in the community section of the channel. And if you look down in the description box below, you'll see links to content I can't put on YouTube due to copyright issues. Okay, back to the topic of The Firm. Was The Firm a really good band that kind of people didn't give their due respect? Or were they a semi-failed project? I'm gonna give you a few points to ponder here. The first one is the way that the band was formed. And I'm going to let you listen to what Paul Rodgers said about the forming of The Firm. Here's Paul.
You know Jimmy?
Yeah. Well, we had a band together, actually, The Firm.
Yeah.
And I was working on a studio solo album at that time, and Jimmy came around just to see what I was up to, and we started kicking ideas around. And we just started writing songs, and that, strangely enough, that's generally the lifeblood of any band and the birthplace of any band is that songwriting thing. That's where it starts, you know. And I had really no plans to go on the road at that time because I'd been touring my brains out for so many years. And Jimmy persuaded me, let's just do a couple of years and that'll be it. And we did, and it was great.
So right there, I think if we unpack his statement, we can really understand the nature of The Firm and the nature of why they were received the way that they were. First of all, if you listen to what he said, he was deeply involved in writing material for a solo album when Jimmy Page sort of came in and then they started collaborating. Second of all, there were no plans to take the band on the road until Jimmy Page persuaded him to do so just for a couple of years, so it was never planned on being an ongoing project. And the third part is that Paul Rodgers mentioned in there was that he was kind of road weary at the time of doing the recording. Now, let's go back and talk about The Firm as a band. I think that one of the reasons why they were underwhelming at the time they came out is because they are very much a studio band. I don't just mean that they weren't able to replicate their music live. They were. It's not that complicated. What I mean is the production on it, the song structure, the songwriting, everything that's being done is done in terms of making a studio album. It's pop music. It's not hard rock music the way that Led Zeppelin is. There's no sound of the room. There's no sound of the drums banging off the walls or off of some strange stairwell in a haunted mansion. They were having a good time in the studio. It wasn't so much a rock band as a musical project. The second thing is that it was a Paul Rodgers centered project, and Jimmy Page is playing his role as a studio sideman in this band. He is not the star. He was the center point of Led Zeppelin, but he's merely an auxiliary piece in The Firm. That said, the main song that brought them together, so far as Jimmy Page's writing goes, was called Midnight Moonlight, and it's a really long, involved guitar piece, and it doesn't fit with the rest of the format of the band. So what you have is almost a collision of some leftover Zeppelin type material that went into what's essentially is a solo Paul Rodgers album with Jimmy Page acting as a studio musician. The third point that I'd like to make is the production on the album. It's nothing like Led Zeppelin. It has nothing of the manic creativity and wild inventiveness and track by track delivery of surprises. It's mixed pretty much the same from track to track. It's really, really well produced, but it's a smooth FM radio sound, and it has nothing in common with Zeppelin whatsoever. So I think this is why the band was underwhelming, because people expected it to have some flavor of Led Zeppelin, and there were Led Zeppelin mimicking bands around at the time that sounded more like Led Zeppelin than The Firm. Now, had this same material been released by Paul Rodgers as a solo album, probably would have done pretty well among his fans and Bad Company fans. And had this album been released by Paul Rodgers and somebody other than Jimmy Page, if Jimmy Page had just been the producer, it might have been pretty successful. But I don't think that, given the legendary status of Led Zeppelin in the shadow of that band, that the firm had any chance of crawling out from under it. This is what I think, but what really matters is what you think. So if you have an idea about this or any other topic connected to classic or contemporary music, please drop it in the section below, and remember to like and subscribe. Thanks a lot.